It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. It's about time that we talk about something that nobody wanted to talk about. Let's take a minute and talk about the Scrum Anti-Values. Now, what's interesting is, you hear me talk a lot about anti-patterns for specific roles, for the product owner, for the Scrum Master, but I don't think I've ever taken an opportunity to talk about this. So, one of our listeners, a subscriber, thank you very much, sent in a request for us to review the 5 Scrum anti-values. Now, I didn't even know they had an official document published with these 5 anti-values, but I did find one. So I'm going to go ahead and review these 5 anti-values. Now, we all know the 5 true values. The 5 true values is use the force, right? Which is focus, openness, respect, commitment, and extreme courage. And that spells out force, and it's pretty cool that it does that. In this article that I found, they gave 5 anti-values, and I'm going to let you build the acronym with the 5 anti-values. So the first anti-value, well, I'll just say stop complaining and recognize the anti-values. There, we'll leave it at that. The first anti-value is B for blaming. And they say, disagreement's inherent in an agile team, which I agree with. But then they go on to say that it's common for people to have constructive disagreement, but sometimes that disagreement falls into disarray and it becomes a dysfunction, which is totally true, right? So I think when you start playing a blame game, you start pointing fingers at each other. Hey, it's your fault. Hey, it's this person's fault. It reminds me of Christopher Avery's responsibility process, right? Blame is near the bottom of that chart. And I think that everyone makes it easier. Everyone thinks it's easier to just blame someone else. If it's someone else's fault, then it's not your fault that dependencies increase and that complexity gets worse and that everything becomes a nightmare. Finger pointing is the easy way to go, but it's not going to get us anywhere, right? It's just we need to get past the finger pointing and past the blame game and start trying to figure out what we can do to work together. So the B is for blaming, which I think is quite interesting. Next is an I. The I is for individualism. We all know that knowledge is power, but when you take all that knowledge and you keep it to yourself and you're not willing to share, when you're trying to kingdom build, when you're trying to cover up for things that aren't going well, that individualism can really break down a team really quick and cause people to, dysfunction again. Here we go. We've all heard the saying there's no I in team. Well, there really is if you write it out, but I'm not going to go there. If you want to see that at a different time, let me know. But one of the things we need to get used to when we talk about Agile is that you can't be a Scrum Matter expert. I mean, I guess you can technically, but most of us need to learn together and work together. We need to be interactive team members. We need to work towards a common goal. And I think that while there is time for someone to be very good at something that they do as an individual, I think that sharing that knowledge with others is the piece that's been missing for a long time to help people do their jobs well. Okay, so we need to stop the blame game and stop individualism. Got it. Next, and I had trouble even saying this word, is timidity. Stop being timid, right? And one of the writers put that Scrum is for rebels. And I agree. Being a rebel sometimes requires courage. Just ask anyone who's part of the Rebel Alliance. Use the Force. We're back there again. But being timid is the exact opposite of having courage, right? When you're timid, you're waiting around for work to come to you. You're not speaking your mind. You're complying with anything that you're being told. You wind up just covering things up and not admitting when your assumptions were wrong, or pretending that you know exactly what you need to do when you don't. Sometimes having the courage to do the right thing means saying no. Sometimes it means admitting you're wrong. Sometimes it means making difficult choices. Sometimes it means having a difficult conversation. But you're not supposed to be timid when it comes to Scrum or Agile. You're supposed to speak out. It's important for you to really identify, understand, and not be afraid of being transparent. There, I said it. The C stands for contempt. And contempt is a feeling that someone or something is not worthy of respect or approval. Ouch. When other members of the Scrum team, management stakeholders, vendors, anybody else, anything related to a product are hurt by you doing contempt, that's when you recognize that it's probably something you shouldn't be doing. So instead of getting into long winded conversations about what you feel, and this is hard because I want to be careful because this could put a fork in being open and honest if you're not doing it right. I guess what I'm saying is if you do have ill will, you shouldn't do it with malice. You need to put your best foot forward and speak to people because no one can make you feel a certain way. And if you feel like somebody's not worthy of respect or approval, then that's not good, right? You just need to get in there and really do your best job. Be your best you. And I think that if you have a level of contempt, it can become destructive quickly. And we all know about those destructive behaviors. One of the easiest way for me to describe this is when people become passive aggressive, right? A lot of people are passive aggressive and they have these behaviors of contempt where they just don't care and they have no respect, and it's just terrible, and it's something that definitely needs to be addressed. All right, so far we have, just to make sure we're all on the same page, blaming, individualism, timidity, and contempt. The last one I have is hoarding. So I've seen individuals and teams hoard product backlog items until what I call the last moment or the 11th hour, right? And this almost turns things into technical debt. It almost just creates technical debt. But I think sometimes, it's important for teams to time things correctly. But at the same time, you shouldn't just take on a whole bunch of work and then not let anyone else know that that work exists, or put off what you could be doing today to help other teams, and so that you can build new features, and knowing that other teams are waiting for you to finish the things you need to do. And I've seen this true with product owners, with team members. You can't hoard what's happening. You need to be open and transparent. You need to be honest. And you need to get the work out there and only take on the work that you can actually achieve. So I'll let you build the acronym. But my point is, if all you're doing, and I always use this quote, I say that Agile should never be a wine and cheese party. If you find that all you're doing is whining, 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 and nobody's bringing any cheese solutions, then you're probably following these Scrum anti-patterns. So, how do you bail yourself out? Become a Star Wars fan and use the Force. There's a reason it's there, and there's a reason it's called the Force, and it's going to help see you through. So, I hope that this brought you great value. And as always, we encourage you, if you have an idea or suggestion for the daily stand up, reach out to us at learnmore@agiledad.com. We'd love to hear your idea. Until next time, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.